Hello, Rochelle. Good morning, Rose.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, Atlanta. Good morning, Southeast. Good morning, YouTube. And Facebook is probably having a hard time right now trying to log in. My name is Giovanni Gonzalez, and I'm honored to be with you this morning, where we say the way you start your day gives you the rest of your day. And it just gives me a sense of asking myself, well, what time is it? Sorrel, what time is it?
Giovanni, it is now as it always is.
There's something in the background, but I'm going to speak over it and then we'll go from there. So I have so many things going on at the same time that I have lost my train of thought. But here's what I want to say. I'm happy to be here. The day's today. I'm going to introduce America's executive coach, the #1 expert in leadership development, and who has made a difference in the life of many people, the co-host of the Daily Huddle, Sorrel Catan. Good morning, Sorrel.
Good morning, Giovanni. And this is the perfect morning to be with the conviction, the notion, the view of life that all is well. And a question we can ask ourselves is, how is it going? And the answer is, it's going the way it's going, and it's going fine. So welcome to the Daily Huddle. Giovanni, I acknowledge you as the #1 transformational leadership coach, my co-host, and it's my pleasure this morning to introduce to the Daily Huddle family your new best friend, Mr. Keith Williams. Keith Williams is setting the stage with this question. How do you address price objections from your prospects? Now, how many of you have had a price objection? Raise your hand or shake your head, right? Well, in his experience as a sales leader and entrepreneur, Keith Williams recently started a company called Skill Stadium, a skills trade job platform that uses video to match the employers and job seekers. He's had a successful career with roles in sales, management, marketing, consulting, and as an analyst. So Keith has faced objections of all sorts over and over and over. He's overcome them to be here with you and here with you to dig into this question. How do you address price objections from your prospects? Good morning, Keith. Welcome to the Daily Huddle. The floor is yours for the next 10 minutes.
Good morning, Sorrel. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm excited to be here. So I am a sales guy, and one of the challenges that you have when you're in sales, obviously, is dealing with price. It's probably one of the biggest objections that you see out there. And my experience has been, you first have to build trust with your customer, because you're now approaching somebody who doesn't know you, doesn't know anything about you, and you're expecting them to spend their money, make an investment. They're essentially making an investment in you. So the first thing I try and do is focus in on trust. And that comes from building a relationship with that particular individual. Remember, companies really are people. And so what I try and do to overcome the concern that prospects have with pricing is I first make sure I take the time to understand that individual. So I do research. And nowadays, we have the internet, which gives us a ton of information on people if we do our research. And businesses. So the first thing I do is I try and engage people on a platform like a LinkedIn or on their social media. That's how you start building trust. Then the other thing I try and do is I try and educate them and provide some sort of value that is something I'm not going to benefit from. So, I've given them advice on something, I've helped them with something that is a key to building trust. Then the next thing I try and do is I try and understand what are their problems. So what is a challenge that they're having that they're trying to resolve? And is it something that is a top 3 priority for them? So in my business, the skilled trades, it's about helping companies find people. And that is a top priority for any business, because if they don't have staff, they're not going to have a business. You can't run a company without having staffing. So I know that that's a top priority for them. So you first, like I said, you have to understand what their problems are. And then you also have to start understanding their numbers. So what is the financial impact that you're providing with your solution? And what I try and do sometimes when people are having concerns of prospect, one of the things I might say is, I'll give you an example. A plumber can deliver 150,000 to 200,000 in profit for a company. So one of the things with my service will run anywhere from about $1,000 for them to acquire that type of person. So I might push back. So I might literally ask them this question: help me understand how $1,000 investment for acquiring a talented employee who's going to deliver 150,000 to 200,000 profit is not a reasonable price. Now I want you to come back and tell me that that $1,000, investing $1,000 is too much money to get a return of 150,000 to 200,000. I need them to actually say those words, because then it becomes real to them, and they understand, here's what I'm getting in return. So at the end of the day, what we're focusing in on here is value. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to hear from you guys, what are some of the experiences you've had, and, what are some of the pushbacks you've gotten when you've dealt with customers.
Hey, Keith.
Yes.
I'll kick it off. In my experience, the objections I get fall into 3 categories, and it's essential, I've discovered for myself, to actually understand where in the sales funnel my prospect is.
Mm-hmm.
There are instances where the prospect is just not at the stage in the funnel that I think they're in, and they're not ready yet. So I'm maybe overhanging
Sure.
their needs. So it's like a mismatch of where they are in the funnel. And then there are times when the person's actually saying no, and they're saying no very politely. And there's the opportunity for me to acknowledge the no. And then there are times when the objection is really, they're phrasing a concern they have. And then it's my job to do, as you're saying, to actually get the concern and then flip that into the value proposition that they want. So, how do I get myself on the same side of the table as that person? And how can we work through the concern together? And is there something else underneath the objection? So often the price objection, as I'm discovering, is just something to mask a different concern. And it's my job as a business owner to help this new team we're creating, myself and the prospect, uncover the concern together through conversation. So
I would say it's timing, like you said. So I think it's just understanding their process, understanding where they are in the process. I would also add that maybe understanding what happens if they don't make a decision, because sometimes your biggest objection is non-decision. Because there a lot of times what I've noticed is a lot of people don't make any decision. They're fearful, and they just keep it as, they just keep things status quo, because a lot of people they don't like change. Change is, they fear change. So, paralysis by analysis, maybe they overanalyze it and they do nothing. So I think what you're saying is right. Like, it could be just bad timing. And so I understand what you're saying. That makes sense.
Questions, comments from others? Joanne, go ahead.
Hi there, and thank you as always. Another wonderful week, you guys. Thank you for that. So, Mr. Williams, I'm on your LinkedIn page.
Yes.
And I think I'm in the right page here. And I see that you are, and we're second generation. I'll send you an invitation.
Cool.
But I see that you are featuring scientists and project managers in the pharmaceutical industry on your LinkedIn page.
Yes.
Which that's my world. So I'd like to hear you talk about that a little more.
So those individuals that I was featuring was with my old company called GoDialo, which featured people in the healthcare and in technology. And so I made a shift to not be all things to all people. And I narrowed down to just focusing on the skilled trades. So I haven't really focused on that area. I probably should update my LinkedIn profile.
Well, I bet you it's the same advice for everybody, right?
Yes. So I do have to update that. But I used to do day in the life interviews with various different professions. And that definitely was a group that I did day in the life interviews. It's also a learning process for me too. So I would learn just really by listening to those folks doing those day in the life interviews. But primarily I was focusing on careers that are growing, that have a need for people. So that was my thought of having those professions on the site. Did I answer that right?
I'm warning you, I'm going to reach out to you for more about that. Thank you very much.
No, that's fine. Did I answer? I want to make sure I answered that correctly.
Beautiful.
All right. Thank you.
And we definitely need the trades. Absolutely.
Yes.
No argument there.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne, and welcome, Kimberly. Kimberly, go ahead.
Hi. So I want to follow up on what Sorrel said. In the instance of bad timing, how do you follow up with a potential client to see if it's a better time to sell to them?
The way I would follow up is I would ask them, first of all, I'd ask them for permission to follow up. That's the first thing. Anytime I'm talking to somebody, I want to have a day and time to follow back up with them. And I want their permission. I also want to know how they'd like me to follow up. Do you prefer me to call? Do you prefer me to email? Do you prefer me? What is your form of communication? And then a lot of times what I try and follow up with is, let's have a purpose, right? So not just follow up, say, hey, I'm following up. Hey, I'm following up to see if anything has changed. You have this information. Is there anything that's changing in your business? Also, if you have information or something that you could share with them that you could provide when you follow up, that's how I would follow up. But I'd ask them for permission right off the gate, right off, say, hey, I don't want to, I say exactly these words. I don't want to badge you, but I don't want this to be our last conversation. Is it okay for me to follow up in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and put a specific time and say, hey, I'll follow up at this day and time. Is that okay? Because now you've made a commitment. That's how I would do it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kimberly, thank you for that question. And Keith, what you're saying triggers something over here for me. It's like the timing is often like this, right? When the prospect is in the early stages of the process, there's the need for me, the seller, or you, the seller, to clearly understand the need. So the mismatch in the timing asynchronous that we're talking about is that you may be at the stage where the need is to understand what your customer is dealing with, yet you're trying to close.
Yes.
That won't ever work. So in addition to asking for the permission, there's the need to clearly identify the stage you're in. Let's say you're in early stage. That there's the stage where you work to understand the need, to really get the pain that your customer is dealing with, and to really get them to understand and see the impact of not doing anything about the pain.
I agree.
And that kind of work is done together. So when you're following up, you're not following up and waiting some time to say, are you ready to buy now? That's not the idea. It's really this kind of deliberate working together, collaboratively defining and uncovering the needs, learning about the pains and the impact of the pains of not taking action together, then crafting a solution that ends up being not you just pushing something on your customer, but together saying, you know what? I understand the need and the pain. Here's a solution we've crafted together. And understanding the impact of not acting on the solution, now your prospect has a clear choice.
No, that makes sense. And and I agree with you, when they buy into it, they're more likely to take action than if you're telling them what to do. That's kind of like when I tell them, when I have them repeat back to me, their objection about the price and the return that they get on the investment. I want them to use their words. What you're trying to do at the end of the day is you're really trying to influence, but they have to lead it. So it has to be something that they want. And you're just, like you said, you're just there to work with them on it. But like when you're following up, you always want to follow up with something that you've discovered that could be of value to them or that could help them in their process.
And that is awesome. And we have a master at this work, another master at this work in the mix. That's Tara Heaton. And to channel Tara, I would say never, ever, ever should any of your moves be in any way, shape, or form an effort to manipulate some action or something you want from your prospect.
Yeah. I would also say that if you have a good pipeline, meaning that that's not the only prospect you're working on, you're going to approach them in a different manner. So you're not going to be approaching them where I've got to close this, I've got to get this, because you have other options, meaning that you're on their timeline as opposed to your timeline. Because whatever time you think, like if you give people a deadline and you demand, it's like giving somebody an ultimatum. That never works. People have a timeline and they're going to do it on their own timeline. And it doesn't matter how great a salesperson you are. If they've decided they're going to do it in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, that's when they're going to do it. And that's why I feel like it's got to be on their timeline. They've got to recognize that this is extremely important for them. And if the timeline is going to be based on how important it is for them and how much pain they're feeling. And you can't control that.
That is perfect, and a perfect segue into you now going to your breakout rooms and sharing with each other what you're creating regarding facing your prospects and any objections, including price objections, that you would get today and in the future. Giovanni, the breakout rooms are ready?
The breakout rooms are ready. You'll only be with one person, and then you'll share only 1 minute each, and then we'll be right back, and then we'll keep discovering together this is very, very important conversation, which is negotiation, price point, and basically what you have to do in your life, right? So we'll be right back. 1 minute each. Bye-bye.
You're on mute, Sorrel.
Welcome back, Keith. Andrea, you had your hand up. Go ahead. It's your turn.
Oh no, I was wondering. I was like, oh shoot, are we gonna go breakout rooms or should I fill the space? So no, but seriously, when you were talking about Keith, what I was thinking and the correlation that I have is the dating life.
Yes.
You were to start dating, you are all about the other person, learning who they are, learning what they do. It's a lot about listening and dropping and forgetting about your agenda. So that's how I correlate in personal life and then sales. The most important thing is about them and not you. Is a tennis match conversation. You do this and then you wait, and then the other one does, and then you wait.
I
So
like
it's
that.
a lot of that. And that's when I had my hand raised, was about the importance of listening, the importance of forgetting about your agenda. And that's I believe the key, on top of timing, because sometimes there's not a match. We're just, yeah, you're cool, we're good. There's no match. It's okay to let them go too, because then you can focus your energy on the people that actually see value about what you think, about what you can offer. So that was all.
No, that makes perfect sense. I agree with you. You know, I get DMs in my inbox from people trying to sell me products and services, and I respond to them that, you know, you didn't even look at my background. Like this one lady said, hey, I know you hate selling. We provide a selling service. I'm like, I actually love selling.
I actually don't.
You said the exact opposite of what I like. And I was like, did you look at my profile? I just asked her. And some people get offended. It's just like, you should know something about me.
Oh my gosh, Keith is
I'm
so
just asking you just to know about me.
Yes, I replied some LinkedIn messages yesterday, and that was exactly what because they were saying, I noticed in your LinkedIn we are look alike, or minds think alike. And I responded, I said, why do we have in common? Question mark. I'm intrigued. I don't know. You're telling me that we look alike, but then I go to your background and you're completely different.
Yeah. But you're right about that. It would be like when I started dating my wife, I would ask her questions about her. I didn't just just talk about me. We probably wouldn't be married if
Absolutely. Or so direct. And I'm sorry, this is a small group, and I think I can say this. Let's get in bed. What the fuck? I cannot do that.
Actually, it's a really big group on YouTube.
I completely forgot. I'm so sorry, everyone.
It's okay.
Oh my gosh. See, now I'm gonna go on mute. I forgot. I'm apologizing.
Right. Oh, nice to meet you.
I love me some Andrea.
All right, welcome back. Thank you all for sharing with the person next to you, for discovering something in this conversation. Ultimately, the commitment is that we trigger new neurons, that we trigger new thinking, that you are left with, well, how do I negotiate better? How do I find my self-expression, right? And we don't know the truth, but we cater to the opportunity of a greater good. So go ahead, Sorrel.
Well, it's your turn. I'm looking at Jamal. I'm looking at Tara, at Jacqueline. What do you want to say? What questions do you have? No hands up. Maybe we just move to giving Mr. Keith Williams his last words. All right, Keith, it's 28 after, my friend.
I see that.
We did interact before we went to the breakout rooms. I'd love for one person to go off mute and say, what are you taking away from the interaction today? Rose Hampton, would you go ahead?
Yes. So, Keith, thank you very much. You know, it's, it may be like a blinding flash of the obvious, because I think, you know, there's like a little bit of a natural propensity to see in my conversations with a prospective client, like, you know, the no for now, and to just be in the conversation of that. But I've never consciously thought through, where is my client in their buying cycle and what is there for me to put in now? And I'm like, how could I have just missed something that's that, rudimentary to the process? But you made me aware that I've not been conscious about that. And that's something that I can now put in like a process, and with intentionality. So thank you so much for making that clear.
You're welcome. And thank you for the comment. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So Keith, pretend this is the last time you ever get to say anything about handling objections and sales to the world. What do you want to say?
I want to say one word: empathy. You really have to put yourself in the shoes of that individual and understand, what their mindset is in terms of making a decision. If you can put yourself in another person's shoes, it's really going to help guide your actions and decisions.
Yeah, and more than guide your actions, it actually does connect very directly to how you started this conversation. If we are to deliver value, we can only deliver value from a position of being empathetic.
Yes.
And truly.
Trust.
So Keith, thank you so much for
Sorrel, thank you.
being our guest. And Giovanni, I'd love for you to create with our family what we're up to on the 28th and create Access the Leader Within for the world again.
Thank you, Sorrel. Keith, thank you for being here. Jacqueline,
thank you, Giovanni.
I know you had your hands up. Thank you for being here. Jamal, it's always great to see you. Ronald, Joanne, Kimberly, Rose, and a few of you. Andrea, and those of you who join us on YouTube, thank you for plugging over here. We apologize for not being on Facebook. And anyway, one of those days. So at the end of the month, there's a profound opportunity to discover what uses you. There is the knowledge you have, which very much, many times it's useless. And then there is what uses you, which basically creates the life you have. You're not being used by the knowledge you have, you're being used by something else. And Access the Leader Within, 3 days will give you access to what actually uses you, that creates the life you have. And it's not knowledge, because you know a lot. So that's what this leadership retreat is about. And we are profoundly committed to making a difference in your life. August 28, 29, and 30th. I know you know, but I'm going to tell you the link to know more about it is www.accesstheleaderwithin.com. We look forward to see you there. Keith, thank you for being here. Andrea, thank you for co-hosting. Sorrel, you're a superstar. And for everybody else, we'll see you on Monday, 9 a.m. Have a phenomenal day.
Have a great day, everyone. Keith just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for everything.
Pleasure. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Thank you.
All right, gang.
Have a good week.
See you on Monday.